Discover the hilarious and heartwarming story of Sebastian Worthington III and Bastian Kowalski, identical twins accidentally separated at birth at St. Mediocrity's Hospital. Raised in wildly different worlds, one a meticulous old-money Worthington, the other a chaotic, warm-hearted Kowalski, they reunite as freshmen at Harvard. Their instant collision on campus turns into the Twin Wars as they run against each other for freshman class representative. Expect witty debates, ridiculous campaign strategies, and an unlikely partnership that takes them from rivals to co-presidents of the student council, proving that structure and spontaneity make the perfect political team. The Harvard Twins, A Tale of Two Idiots. Part 1, The Great Separation. The thing about being accidentally separated at birth is that it requires a truly spectacular level of institutional incompetence. Our story begins not with the best of times or the worst of times, but with the most chaotic of times, specifically a Tuesday afternoon at St. Mediocrity's Hospital in suburban Massachusetts, where two registered nurses were having a heated debate about whether Ross and Rachel were truly on a break. "They were on a break," shouted Nurse Henderson, who was, ironically, supposed to be monitoring which baby belonged to which parents. "He slept with the copy girl 3 hours later, Carol. 3 hours, retorted Nurse Kim, who was simultaneously updating the birth certificates and watching Friends reruns on her phone. In the confusion, two identical baby boys, both with the unfortunate tendency to look like tiny upset potatoes, were placed in the wrong bassinets. Baby A went home with the Worthingtons, a family of old money so old it was practically archaeological. Baby B went home with the Kowalskis, a family whose idea of old money was a $20 bill they found in a winter coat from 2003. Neither family had any idea that their son had a genetic carbon copy somewhere out there, destined to one day make their lives infinitely more complicated. Chapter 1. Meet Sebastian Worthington III. Sebastian Worthington III was exactly the kind of person whose full name appeared on everything he owned, including his underwear. Not because he was particularly worried about underwear theft at his prestigious boarding school, but because his mother had insisted on it, and one simply didn't argue with Constance Worthington. At 16 years old, Sebastian had achieved what most teenagers could only dream of: perfect grades, captain of the debate team, fluency in 3 languages, 4 if you counted passive-aggressive WASP, and a killer backhand in tennis. He also had the personality of a Wikipedia article written by someone who thought fun needed a citation. "Mother, father," Sebastian announced one autumn evening over dinner at their Connecticut estate, "I've been accepted to Harvard as an early admission candidate." His father, Sebastian Worthington II, because of course, barely looked up from his brandy. Naturally, is there dessert? His mother dabbed her lips with a napkin that probably cost more than a used Honda. "Darling, we knew you'd get in. You were conceived specifically to get into Harvard. Well, that and to continue the family line. Mainly Harvard, though." Sebastian smiled his practiced smile, the one he'd perfected at age 7, and returned to his dinner. Harvard wasn't just his destination, it was his destiny. He'd already begun planning his trajectory. Freshman class representative, then sophomore delegate, junior council member, and finally, senior year, student council president. From there, it was Yale Law, a clerkship, Congress by 35, and president by 50. He had a color-coded spreadsheet. What Sebastian didn't have was any clue that his entire life plan was about to be derailed by someone who shared his DNA but absolutely none of his sensibilities. Chapter 2. Meet Bastian Kowalski. Bastian Kowalski, just Bastian, never Sebastian, because we're not pretentious, kiddo, was the kind of teenager who made guidance counselors drink. "Mr. Kowalski," said his counselor, Miss Rodriguez, massaging her temples, "you got a 2380 on your SAT. "I know, I'm pissed. I wanted the full 2400, but I got distracted during the essay portion by a really interesting bird outside." That's not the point. The point is you have straight A's, you volunteer at 3 different organizations, you taught yourself Mandarin from YouTube videos, and you're telling me you want to apply to exactly one college? Harvard, baby! Bastian grinned, giving her finger guns, which was never an appropriate gesture in any situation, especially not college counseling. Miss Rodriguez pulled up his file. And you're applying because... My mom says that's where the smart people go, and apparently I'm smart, so I should meet my people. Also, they have a really good cafeteria. I watched a YouTube tour. They had like 3 types of hummus. 3 types of hummus? Miss R, you're not listening. 3 types. Despite his cavalier attitude, Bastian had achieved something remarkable. He'd aced high school without breaking a sweat, while simultaneously working part-time at his family's Polish restaurant, performing in a community theater group, and running a moderately successful TikTok account where he explained philosophy using cat videos. His mother, Donna Kowalski, cried when the acceptance letter came. His father, Greg, just pulled him into a bear hug that lasted uncomfortably long. "Harvard!" Donna sobbed. "My baby! In Harvard!" "It's actually just Harvard, Ma, not in Harvard. It's not like it's a building you're literally inside of." "Don't correct your mother when she's crying," Greg laughed, wiping his own eyes. Bastian had no plans for Harvard beyond show up and try not to embarrass myself too badly. He certainly hadn't planned on running for student council president. He hadn't even known that was a thing until someone mentioned it during orientation week. Chapter 3, The Collision Course begins. Harvard Yard in September was everything Sebastian had imagined. Brick buildings dripping with ivy and intellectual superiority. Students discussing Proust over overpriced coffee. And an overwhelming sense that everyone here is going to rule the world someday. Sebastian moved into his dorm room in Matthews Hall with military precision. His color-coded hangers were arranged by garment type and season. His textbooks were organized by class, then alphabetically by author. His roommate, a laid-back kid from California named Josh, watched this process with increasing alarm. "Dude, are you okay?" "I'm excellent," Sebastian replied, measuring the exact distance his desk lamp should be from the edge of his desk. "Why do you ask?" No reason at all. 3 floors up, Bastian was having a very different moving experience. "Mom, you can't cry in front of the other parents. You're embarrassing me." "I'm not embarrassing," Donna wailed, loud enough for everyone in the entire building to hear. "I'm emotionally available." Greg was busy trying to force a mini fridge through a doorway it clearly wasn't designed to fit through. "Dad, the door's fine." "The fridge is too big." No, we just need the right angle." 20 minutes later, after the fridge had been successfully installed, thanks to a helpful physics major who calculated the optimal entry angle, Bastian's parents finally departed, leaving him with his roommate, a quiet computer science major named Alex, who communicated primarily in nods. "So," Bastian said, "this is college." Alex nodded. "Want to go explore?" Alex nodded again. They would later become best friends, primarily because Alex appreciated that Bastian filled silences without requiring responses. Chapter 4, The First Encounter. The first time Sebastian and Bastian saw each other was in the dining hall, which Harvard called Annenberg Hall, because dining hall wasn't pretentious enough. Sebastian was in line, mentally calculating the optimal nutrition-to-calorie ratio of his meal options, when he heard someone behind him say, "Dude, is that venison? Like actual deer? That's so metal." He turned around, prepared to deliver a withering look to whoever was referring to university dining options as metal, and froze. He was looking at himself. Or rather, a version of himself who had apparently been raised by wolves, or at least by people who thought cargo shorts were acceptable attire for university dining. Bastian, for his part, dropped his tray. "What the hell?" they said in unison, which was the first of many times they would accidentally synchronize, much to their mutual horror. They stood there, staring at each other, blocking the entire line, while increasingly irritated students piled up behind them. "Move it," someone shouted. "Yeah, take your weird mirror thing somewhere else," added another. Sebastian and Bastian moved robotically to an empty table, still staring at each other. "Okay," Sebastian said slowly, his brain trying to process this impossibility. "This is unusual." "Dude," Bastian replied eloquently. "Dude! Dude!" "Yes, I gathered that you're surprised." "I am also surprised. We look exactly alike." "I have eyes, thank you." "When's your birthday?" Bastian demanded. "March 15th, 2007. Why, that's my birthday!" Sebastian's left eye twitched, which only happened when his carefully ordered worldview was being disrupted. "Where were you born?" "St. Mediocrity's Hospital in Massachusetts." Sebastian's other eye joined the twitching. "I was born there too." They sat in silence for a moment, the implications crashing over them like a wave of genetic impossibility. "So," Bastian said finally, "we're either twins, or clones, or the universe is glitching." "Twins seems most statistically likely," Sebastian managed. "How did we not know about each other?" "I mean, my parents only had one baby. I've seen the pictures. There's definitely just one potato-looking baby in all of them." "I also appear singularly in all family photographs." "So someone seriously messed up at the hospital." That is an understatement of catastrophic proportions." They sat there for another minute, processing. "I'm Bastian," Bastian said finally, extending his hand. "Bastian Kowalski." Sebastian shook it, noting that they had the same grip strength, the same hand size. "Sebastian Worthington the Third." "The Third? Seriously?" "It's a family name. It's a sequel." I need to call my parents," Sebastian stood abruptly. I need to process this." "Yeah, same. But hey," Bastian grinned, and Sebastian was unnerved to see his own face making expressions he'd never made. "This is kind of cool, right? I've always wanted a brother." Sebastian, who had carefully cultivated being an only child and enjoyed the undivided attention of his parents' expectations, did not think this was cool at all. Chapter 5, The Phone Calls. Sebastian retreated to his dorm room and did something he rarely did. He called his mother without scheduling it first. "Darling," Constance answered, concerned. "Is something wrong? You're calling outside our designated communication window." "Mother, I need you to be honest with me. Do I have a twin brother?" There was a pause, a long pause, the kind of pause that contained multitudes. "Mother? How did you find out?" Sebastian's world tilted. "So, it's true?" "Sebastian, darling, let me explain. You've been lying to me for 16 years? We weren't lying. We were protecting you from unnecessary complexity. I have a twin brother. That's not complexity. That's biology." Another pause. "Your father and I received the wrong baby from the hospital. When we realized the mistake weeks later, we discovered that the other family had moved away. By the time we located them, we'd already bonded with you, and they'd bonded with the other one. His name is Bastian." "Is it? How unfortunate. That sounds like a fantasy novel character." "Mother, this is insane." "Sebastian, we made a choice. Both families agreed it would be too disruptive to switch you back. And look how well you've turned out. You're at Harvard." "So is he." This pause was different. This pause contained concern. "He's at Harvard now?" "Yes, Mother. We met in the dining hall. We look exactly alike because we're literally the same person genetically." "Well," Constance said slowly, "that is unexpected. But Sebastian, darling, you must remember, you are a Worthington. You have been raised with proper values, proper education, proper everything. This other person is merely a genetic coincidence." Sebastian hung up. He never hung up on his mother. He was adding it to his list of things that have gone horribly wrong today. Meanwhile, 3 floors up, Bastian's phone call was going very differently. "Ma," he shouted into his phone. "Why didn't you tell me I have a twin?" "Baby, we were going to tell you." "When? At my wedding?" "Well, we thought maybe 25 was a good age." "I'm 16. Exactly. Too young. You're still forming your identity." "My identity just walked up to me in the cafeteria. He's wearing khakis, Ma. Khakis." Greg grabbed the phone. "Son, listen. When we brought you home from the hospital, you were our baby. We loved you immediately. When the hospital called weeks later saying they'd made a mistake, we'd already fallen in love. So had the other family. We all agreed, both families, that we couldn't switch you. You were already ours." Bastian felt his anger deflate slightly. "You knew about him this whole time?" "We knew about him. We get updates every year. Pictures, grades, that kind of thing. They send us stuff, we send them stuff about you." "That's so weird, Dad." "I know, kid, but you gotta understand. We could never have given you up. You're our son. The other family felt the same way about their boy. His name's Sebastian. He talks like he's already president of something." "Yeah, that sounds about right. The Worthingtons are fancy." "How fancy?" "Connecticut estate fancy. Old money fancy. Your mother and I still can't believe our DNA made something that fancy. No offense." "None taken. I'm processing." After hanging up, Bastian sat on his bed, mind racing. He had a twin brother, an identical twin brother who was apparently everything Bastian wasn't. Organized, serious, probably already had his next 4 years planned out. On the other end of Matthew's hall, Sebastian was having similar thoughts, but with significantly more anxiety. He had a twin brother, an identical twin brother. An identical twin brother who seemed to go through life without a plan, wearing cargo shorts, calling things metal. They were the same person, genetically speaking, but completely different people in every other sense. This was going to be interesting. Chapter 6. The Investigation. Over the next few weeks, Sebastian and Bastian engaged in what could only be described as mutual stalking, but the legal kind. Sebastian approached it scientifically. He created a spreadsheet tracking every class they shared, Introduction to Psychology, Economics 101, and, unfortunately, a mandatory freshman seminar on Finding Your Harvard Identity, which was rich with irony. He noted their physical differences. Bastian was approximately 1 inch taller, probably from better sleep habits and less stress. Bastian also smiled more, which Sebastian found both annoying and statistically significant. Bastian's approach was less scientific. He followed Sebastian around campus, occasionally popping out from behind trees. "Stop doing that," Sebastian hissed after the 4th time. "I'm studying you. It's fascinating. We have the same ears." "Everyone has ears." "Yeah, but ours are identical ears. Look at this." Bastian whipped out his phone and took a selfie with both their ears in frame. "I'm starting an Instagram, Twin Ears of Harvard." "Please don't." "Too late. Already posted. Got 50 likes. They discovered they had the same allergies, peanuts, mildly, the same tendency to sneeze in bright sunlight, and the same inability to roll their tongues, which Bastian found devastating because he'd been planning to learn it for a party trick. They also discovered they had absolutely nothing else in common. Sebastian's idea of fun was reorganizing his sock drawer by fabric weight. Bastian's idea of fun was seeing how many grapes he could juggle while reciting Shakespeare. The answer was 4, but only if it was a sonnet. Sebastian drank coffee black because it was efficient. Bastian drank coffee with so much cream and sugar, it was essentially cake in liquid form. Sebastian's schedule was blocked out in 15-minute increments. Bastian's schedule was show up to things, probably. "How do you live like this?" Sebastian asked one day, looking at Bastian's planner, which contained exactly 3 entries. Tuesday, classes exist, and a drawing of a cat. How do you live like that? Bastian countered, pointing at Sebastian's color-coded, cross-referenced, laminated schedule. What if something spontaneous happens? Spontaneous things don't happen if you plan correctly. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Despite their differences, they kept ending up in the same places. The library, Sebastian studying, Bastian people-watching. The gym, Sebastian following a scientifically optimized workout routine, Bastian attempting to learn parkour from YouTube videos. The campus cafe, both ordering the same sandwich, which freaked out the staff. "You two are weird," said their barista, Carmen, who had given up trying to tell them apart. "We prefer genetically improbable," Bastian replied. "I prefer efficient," Sebastian added. "One face, two people. Think of how much time we save not having to remember different features." Carmen just stared at them. "I'm adding extra shots to both your coffees. You need help." Chapter 7. The Announcement. The email came in October, sent to all freshmen. "Attention freshmen! Student council elections will be held in December. Any freshman interested in running for freshman class representative should submit their intent by November 1st. This position serves as a stepping stone to higher student council positions, including the prestigious role of student council president in your senior year." Sebastian read this email 3 times, felt his heart rate increase with excitement, and immediately began drafting his campaign strategy. Bastian read this email once, said, neat, and forgot about it for 2 weeks until his roommate Alex brought it up via a series of meaningful nods and pointed looks at his laptop. "You think I should run?" Bastian nodded vigorously. "Why?" Alex typed on his laptop and turned it around. "Because it would be funny." "That's the best reason I've heard for anything ever. I'm in." When the list of candidates was posted, Sebastian's perfectly typed name appeared at the top. Sebastian Worthington III, Matthews Hall, prospective government major. 3 names down was Bastian Kowalski, Matthews Hall, undecided major, but definitely leaning toward philosophy or maybe theater, or both. Sebastian saw the list and felt something he rarely felt: panic. He found Bastian in the common room teaching a group of students how to make origami cranes. "We need to talk," Sebastian said. "Ooh, scary voice. Is this about that time I told everyone we were twins? Because people think it's hilarious." "Why are you running for freshman class representative?" "Oh, that. Yeah, my roommate thought it would be funny." "Funny?" "Yeah, humor, that thing that makes people laugh." Sebastian's eyes started twitching again. "This isn't funny. This is my plan. I have a plan." "What plan?" "Freshman representative, sophomore delegate, junior council member, senior student council president. It's my path to political office." Bastian blinked. "Dude, you're 16. 17 in March. And planning ahead is how success happens." Or, hear me out, planning ahead is how you miss out on life while you're busy color-coding it. They stared at each other, identical faces showing completely different emotions. "Drop out of the race," Sebastian said. "No," Bastian replied. "This is important to me." "Maybe it's important to me too." "Since when?" "Since you told me I couldn't do it." And there it was, the line in the sand, the beginning of what would become known around Harvard as the Twin Wars. Chapter 8. The Campaigns Begin. Sebastian's campaign was a masterpiece of political strategy. He had a platform, improving communication between administration and students, a slogan, Worthington worth voting for, and a team of volunteers he'd recruited through careful networking. His posters were professionally printed, his social media presence was polished, his debate prep was thorough. He scheduled his campaign activities in his planner, blocked out in 30-minute increments. Bastian's campaign was held together by duct tape and chaos. His platform was Make Harvard Less Stressful, which he admitted was vague but felt right. His slogan was "Vote for Bastian, the one who isn't uptight," which his campaign manager, Alex, who had never spoken but apparently had brilliant ideas when typing, had suggested. His posters were hand-drawn, featuring him as various animals with thumbs up. His favorite was the one where he was a koala, with the caption, "I'm qualified for this position," which made Sebastian physically cringe. "That's not even your last name," Sebastian pointed out. "No, but it's close enough, and it has a koala." "This is a serious election." "Bro, it's freshman class representative. We're going to plan one dance and argue about vending machines. Chill." But Sebastian couldn't chill. Every time he saw one of Bastian's ridiculous posters, his carefully constructed path to power seemed more threatened. They looked identical. People were going to confuse them. This was a disaster. His fears were confirmed when a fellow freshman stopped him in the yard. "Hey, love your koala coaster." "I'm not. That's not me. I'm the other twin." "Oh, sorry. You're the uptight one?" Sebastian's smile became sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm the prepared one." The student backed away slowly. Meanwhile, Bastian was having the time of his life. He'd never been particularly political, but watching Sebastian's increasing anxiety was entertainment enough. Plus, people seemed to actually like his approach. "You're so real," one student told him, "not like these other candidates who act like this is Congress." "It's literally a position where I might get to choose between chocolate chip and oatmeal cookies for an event," Bastian replied. "Anyone taking this super seriously is missing the point." But Sebastian wasn't missing the point. For him, every position was practice. Every election was training. Every win was a step closer to the ultimate goal. The first debate was scheduled for mid-November. Chapter 9. The Great Debate. The freshman class representative debate was held in a lecture hall that was far too large for the occasion. About 60 students showed up, which was 50 more than expected, but only because word had gotten out that the identical twins were going to face off. "This is like watching someone argue as a mirror," someone whispered. $20, says the uptight one cries, another whispered back. Sebastian took his podium, adjusting his tie. He was the only candidate wearing a tie. Bastian took his podium, adjusting his cat ear headband. He was the only candidate wearing a joke accessory. "Why are you wearing that?" Sebastian hissed. "My campaign manager thought it would be funny," Bastian whispered back. Sebastian looked at Alex in the front row, who gave a thumbs up and remained silent. The moderator, a bored-looking junior named Maya, read the first question. "What is your main priority if elected?" Sebastian launched into his prepared speech about communication infrastructure and administrative transparency. It was coherent, well-researched, and delivered with the passion of someone who had practiced in front of a mirror 47 times. The audience clapped politely. Bastian's turn. He looked at his note cards, looked at the audience, and crumpled the cards up. "Honestly, my priority is making sure we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're freshmen. We barely know where our classes are. Half of us are still homesick. The other half are pretending not to be homesick. We need someone who's going to plan events that are actually fun, not just resume-building exercises." The audience erupted in applause. Sebastian felt something dark and uncomfortable stir in his chest. It felt like losing. The debate continued. Every answer Sebastian gave was perfect, practiced, and political. Every answer Bastian gave was casual, funny, and genuine. "How would you handle budget allocation for freshman events?" Sebastian: "I would implement a democratic system where students can vote on priority spending, ensuring transparency and fair distribution of resources." Bastian: "I'd make sure we have enough money for pizza, good pizza, not that cardboard stuff." Everything else is negotiable. What makes you qualified for this position? Sebastian: "I have extensive experience in leadership roles, having served as president of my high school debate team, captain of the tennis team, and volunteer coordinator for 3 charitable organizations." Bastian: "I can juggle while reciting Shakespeare. I make excellent playlists, and I genuinely think most of you are pretty cool. Also, I'm not going to use this position to pad my resume. I'm going to actually do the job. That last line landed like a bomb. Several people in the audience looked at Sebastian. Low blow, Sebastian muttered during the break. Truth blow, Bastian replied. Face it, Seb, you're in this for you. I'm in this for fun. Don't call me Seb. Why not? We're brothers. We're genetically related. That's different. Bastian looked genuinely hurt for a moment, which made Sebastian feel something he didn't like, guilt. But then the debate resumed, and they were opponents again. Chapter 10, The Confusion Campaign. Someone, and both twins swore it wasn't them, created an Instagram account called @WhичTwinIsThis that posted photos of Sebastian and Bastian around campus, asking followers to guess which was which. It went viral, Harvard viral anyway, which meant about 3,000 followers in a week. The account highlighted their differences. Twin A is reorganizing the entire library system for fun. Twin B is reorganizing the library's chairs into a throne. Twin A is at the gym following a scientifically optimized routine. Twin B is at the gym trying to teach the equipment to do tricks. Twin A's coffee order, black, no sugar. Twin B's coffee order, surprise me, but make it brown. Students started playing a game, spot the twin and guess which one. This led to several awkward encounters. Professor Chen stopped Sebastian after class. Your presentation on Keynesian economics was excellent, though I was surprised you delivered it while wearing a Hawaiian shirt. That wasn't me, that was my twin. Your what? The Hawaiian shirt had, in fact, been Bastian, who had filled in for Sebastian's econ presentation when Sebastian had gotten food poisoning. Bastian had done surprisingly well, mostly by admitting he'd learned everything from the textbook that morning and one very helpful YouTube video. Your twin did better than you usually do, Professor Chen admitted later. He made economics sound fun. Sebastian added this to his growing list of grievances. The campaigns intensified. Sebastian's team distributed policy papers. Bastian's team distributed cookies with edible campaign slogans on them. This is a mockery of the democratic process, Sebastian complained to his campaign manager, an intense political science major named Jennifer. Actually, the cookies are brilliant, Jennifer admitted. We're down 3 points in the polls. 3 points? How is that possible? People like cookies more than policy papers, apparently. This isn't, democracy is failing. Jennifer patted his shoulder. Maybe you should try being more likable? I am likable. Jennifer's silence spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Bastian was having the opposite problem. You need to take this more seriously, Alex typed on his laptop. I am taking it seriously. I'm seriously trying to win. You spent your last rally doing stand-up comedy, and people loved it. Sebastian spent his last rally outlining a 10-point plan for improving campus life. And people were bored by it. I saw 3 people fall asleep. Alex sighed, in text form, You're winning in popularity, but Sebastian looks more presidential. I don't want to look presidential. I want to look like someone people want to get pizza with. What if you need to be both? Bastian paused. That's annoyingly wise for someone who never talks. Alex smiled and shrugged. Chapter 11, The Twin Summit. They called a truce 2 weeks before the election. Well, truce was a strong word. More accurately, they were both so exhausted from campaigning and regular schoolwork and avoiding each other that they ended up in the same study room in the library at 2 a.m. by accident. Oh, Sebastian said, looking up from his constitutional law reading. You. Oh, Bastian echoed, looking up from his philosophy essay. You. They stared at each other for a moment. The librarian said this room was free, they said simultaneously. Then both frowned. Stop doing that, they said together again. Stop, they both started. Then Sebastian held up a hand. This is ridiculous. The room is large enough for both of us. We can study in silence like adults. Agreed, Bastian said. They studied in silence for approximately 4 minutes. Your campaign posters are childish, Sebastian said, not looking up from his book. Your campaign posters look like corporate propaganda, Bastian replied, not looking up from his laptop. Another minute of silence. You know you're going to lose, Sebastian said. You know people actually like me, Bastian countered. Being liked and being qualified are different things. Being qualified and being human are different things. Sebastian slammed his book shut. What is that supposed to mean? Bastian closed his laptop. It means you're running for this position like it's the UN Secretary General. It's freshman class representative. We're going to plan like 2 events and argue about whether the vending machines should have more healthy options. Every position matters. Every election is practice for the next one. Or, Bastian said, leaning forward, every position is a chance to actually help people have a better experience. Not everything has to be a stepping stone to your grand destiny. Says the person who decided to run because their roommate thought it would be funny. Yeah, it started as a joke, but you know what? People are responding to me. Real people with real concerns who are tired of politicians in training treating everything like a resume line. Sebastian stood up. I'm trying to make a difference. So am I. Bastian stood too. I'm trying to make college less miserable for people who are stressed and overwhelmed and homesick. By making jokes and handing out cookies? By being real, by not pretending I'm something I'm not, by actually listening when people talk instead of mentally drafting my next speech. They were face to face now, identical but completely different, like mirror images that had somehow become opposites. I've worked my entire life for this, Sebastian said quietly. And I'm just starting to figure out what I want, Bastian replied. Maybe that's the difference. You know exactly who you want to be. I'm still figuring out who I am. Something in Sebastian's chest loosened slightly. For the first time since meeting his twin, he saw not a threat, but a person. A different person. Someone who shared his face, but not his fears. We're very different, Sebastian said. No kidding. But we're also, Sebastian struggled with the word, brothers. Bastian's face, their face, split into a genuine smile. Yeah, we are. They stood there for a moment, the competition temporarily forgotten. I'm still going to win, Sebastian said. In your dreams, Seb. Don't call me that. Too late, it's stuck. But they were both smiling now. Want to order pizza? Bastian asked. I know a place that delivers until 3 a.m. Sebastian checked his watch. He should be sleeping by now. His schedule said so. But his schedule didn't account for accidentally finding a twin brother at Harvard and campaigning against him and eventually, maybe, becoming actual friends. Sure, Sebastian said, but only if they have a healthy option. You're the worst. You're worse. They ordered pizza, half veggie for Sebastian, half everything for Bastian, and spent the next 2 hours not talking about the campaign. Instead, they swapped stories. Sebastian talked about his rigidly structured childhood, the pressure of being a Worthington, the expectations that had been placed on him since birth. Bastian talked about his chaotic but loving family, the freedom he'd had to explore, the restaurant where he'd learned to talk to anyone. Your childhood sounds exhausting, Bastian said. Yours sounds terrifying, Sebastian replied. No structure? No plan? How did you survive? I just did things. When I was interested in something, I learned about it. When I wasn't, I moved on. That's so inefficient. That's so fun. They were different people, raised in different worlds, shaped by different expectations. But they were also the same, in ways neither of them fully understood yet. As dawn started to break through the library windows, they packed up their things. May the best twin win, Sebastian said, offering his hand. May the most entertaining campaign win, Bastian replied, shaking it. The truce lasted until they got back to their dorm, where they immediately began plotting how to outdo each other in the final 2 weeks of campaigning. Chapter 12. The Great Debate, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. The election committee, sensing the intense interest in the twin rivalry, scheduled a second debate. This one would be filmed and broadcast on the campus TV station, which approximately 47 people watched, but still. Both campaigns prepared extensively. Sebastian's team crafted perfect responses to every possible question, conducted mock debates, and even hired a consultant who had worked on actual political campaigns. The key is to appear both authoritative and relatable, the consultant said. You need to be presidential, but also human. But I am human, Sebastian protested. The consultant and Jennifer exchanged glances. More human, Jennifer clarified. Bastian's preparation was less formal. What if they ask about budget allocation, Alex typed. I'll say something about pizza and responsibility. People love pizza. What if they ask about your leadership experience? I'll tell them about that time I organized a surprise party for my mom and coordinated like 30 people without her finding out. That's leadership, right? Alex nodded, though he looked concerned. The night of the debate, the lecture hall was packed. Word had spread across campus. Even students from other classes showed up. The @Which_twin_is_this Instagram account was live streaming. Sebastian arrived in a suit. Bastian arrived in a blazer over a t-shirt that said, "Vote for Pedro," but with Pedro crossed out and Bastian written in Sharpie. Really? Sebastian asked. It's called humor, Seb. Try it sometime. The debate began with opening statements. Sebastian spoke eloquently about responsibility, leadership, and his vision for an organized and effective class government. Bastian spoke about community, authenticity, and not taking ourselves so seriously that we forget to actually enjoy our time here. The questions started. How would you handle a situation where students disagree about event planning? Sebastian, I would implement a democratic voting system, possibly utilizing a ranked choice voting method to ensure all voices are heard. Bastian, I'd throw a party for both options and see which one people actually show up to. Democracy in action, baby. The audience laughed. Sebastian's jaw tightened. What's your stance on increasing funding for mental health resources? Mental health is crucial. I would work with administration to allocate more resources, perhaps by reallocating funds from less essential programs and... Bastian interrupted. I'd fight for it, like actually fight, because we're all stressed out of our minds and pretending we're fine is killing us. We need more counselors, more support, and less stigma. The audience erupted in applause. Sebastian noticed several people in the front row wiping tears. He felt himself losing ground and did something desperate. My opponent is very good at saying what people want to hear, Sebastian said during his closing statement, but saying and doing are different things. I have a track record of leadership. I have experience. I have plans. What does my opponent have? Jokes and pizza promises? The audience went quiet. Bastian's closing statement was simple. You know what? He's right. I don't have much experience. I don't have a 10-point plan. What I have is the actual desire to make your lives better, not just add a line to my resume. I'm running because I care, not because it's part of some grand career plan. And yeah, I make jokes, because life is hard enough without taking everything super seriously. He paused, looking directly at Sebastian. My brother, and yeah, he's my brother, even if we just found out, he's brilliant. He's organized, he'd probably be a great class representative. But I'd be the one who'd actually answer your texts. I'd be the one who'd actually care about your problems. I'd be the one who'd remember that we're all just trying to survive our first year of college. The audience was silent for a beat, then exploded into applause. Sebastian felt something he'd never felt before in competition. He felt like he'd lost, even though the votes hadn't been cast yet. Chapter 13, The Plot Twist. 3 days before the election, both campaigns received the same email. Due to the unprecedented interest in this election and the unique circumstances of both leading candidates, the election committee has decided to create an additional position, co-freshman representatives. Both Sebastian Worthington III and Bastian Kowalski are invited to consider running together as a joint ticket. Sebastian read this email 7 times. Bastian read it once and immediately went to find Sebastian. He found him in his dorm room, sitting at his meticulously organized desk, staring at his laptop. Did you see the email? Bastian asked. Yes. And? I don't know. This might have been the first time Sebastian had ever said those 3 words. You don't know? Bastian sat on Sebastian's perfectly made bed, wrinkling the covers. Sebastian's eye twitched, but he didn't say anything. I've spent my entire life working toward this, Sebastian said slowly. I had a plan, and then you showed up and complicated everything. Sorry for being born, Bastian offered. I'm not... Sebastian sighed. You're very frustrating. Right back at you, buddy. But you're also... Sebastian struggled with the words. Not terrible. Wow, such a ringing endorsement. I'm trying to say that perhaps we could work together. Like, as co-representatives? The email suggests it. But you hate sharing. You have literally labeled sides of the dorm room sink. That's for hygiene purposes. You labeled them Sebastian's side and guest side. I'm your twin, not a guest. Fine, I'll change it to Bastian's side. Happy? Bastian grinned. Actually, yeah. They sat in silence for a moment. Would it work? Sebastian asked. We're complete opposites. Or, Bastian said, we're complete halves of a whole. You're the planning and organization. I'm the people skills and fun. Together, we're like one functional person. That's a terrible pitch. But am I wrong? Sebastian considered this. Alone, he was efficient but cold. Bastian was warm but chaotic. Together, they might actually be effective. We'd need ground rules, Sebastian said. Naturally. I handle all scheduling and budget allocation. Fine. I handle all social events and student outreach. I get final say on official communications. I get final say on pizza toppings. Deal. They shook hands, and for the first time, it felt less like opponents and more like partners. There's one problem, Bastian said. What? We have to publicly announce we're working together, which means we have to explain the whole twin thing to everyone. Sebastian paled. I've been avoiding that conversation. Yeah, me too. But everyone's going to find out eventually. My parents are going to be mortified. My parents are going to cry and try to adopt you. That's actually kind of nice. They're a lot, but yeah, they're great. They composed a joint email to the election committee accepting the co-representative proposal. Then they composed another email, this one to the entire freshman class. Dear fellow freshmen, you may have noticed that Sebastian Worthington III and Bastian Kowalski look identical. That's because we're twins, separated at birth due to a hospital error, who discovered each other this year at Harvard. We know this sounds like a bad movie plot, but we have the birth certificates to prove it. We're announcing that we're running together as co-freshman representatives. Sebastian will bring organization, planning, and policy expertise. Bastian will bring creativity, outreach, and an alarming amount of energy. Together, we promise to make this year memorable, productive, and occasionally fun. Vote for us. Or don't, but at least the campaign will be entertaining. Sincerely, the twins. We're workshopping a better name. The email went viral. Within hours, they had interview requests from the campus newspaper, the campus radio station, and one very confused journalism student who wanted to do a documentary. Chapter 14. The Joint Campaign. The final week of campaigning was chaos, but organized chaos, which was new for Bastian and refreshing for Sebastian. They divided responsibilities. Sebastian created detailed policy proposals for improving freshman life, better dining hall hours, expanded library access, more mental health resources. Bastian turned those proposals into engaging social media content, complete with memes and that one video of a cat falling off a table that everyone loved. Their campaign events were a blend of both their styles. Sebastian gave passionate speeches about structural change. Bastian gave out cookies and made people laugh. Together, they were actually... You're a natural at this, Sebastian admitted after one rally. So are you, when you're not being so stiff, Bastian replied. I'm not stiff. Seb, you introduce yourself with your full name, including the third. That's stiff. It's traditional. It's stiff. But Sebastian smiled, and that was progress. They started spending more time together, not just for campaign purposes, but because they were genuinely curious about each other. Sebastian taught Bastian how to actually study effectively instead of cramming the night before. Bastian taught Sebastian how to have a conversation that didn't feel like a negotiation. "You know," Bastian said one night while they were studying together in the library, "I think we're becoming actual friends." "Don't make it weird," Sebastian replied, but he was smiling. "Too late, we're friends, I'm telling everyone." "Please don't." "Too late, already posted it. Hashtag twin friends, hashtag Harvard twins. This is why you shouldn't have given me access to your Instagram." "You did what?" But even as Sebastian lunged for Bastian's phone, he was laughing. Actually laughing. Not the polite chuckle he used at networking events, but a real, genuine laugh. Alex, watching from across the library, gave a thumbs up. Election day arrived with surprising anticlimax. By that point, the twin ticket was so popular that their only real competition was a sophomore running on a platform of free pizza Fridays, which was compelling, but ultimately defeated by the twins' promise of free pizza Fridays and organized events and actual mental health support. They won with 73% of the vote. Chapter 15. The Co-Presidency begins. Being co-freshman representatives was exactly as chaotic and rewarding as they'd expected. Sebastian organized meetings with ruthless efficiency, 15-minute blocks, detailed agendas, follow-up emails sent within 24 hours. Bastian made sure people actually wanted to attend those meetings by bringing snacks and starting each one with an icebreaker. Today's icebreaker, what's your most embarrassing moment at Harvard so far? Bastian announced at their first official meeting. "We don't have time for," Sebastian started. "I got locked in the library bathroom for 2 hours, one representative admitted. "I fell asleep in the science center and woke up during a completely different class," another shared. "I accidentally called my professor Mom," a third confessed. Everyone laughed, the tension broke, and the meeting proceeded smoothly. "Okay, that was actually effective," Sebastian admitted afterward. "People are more productive when they're comfortable," Bastian replied. "Also, when they're fed. I'm ordering pizza for next meeting." "That's not in the budget." "I'm using my restaurant employee discount. It's fine." They planned their first event together, a fall festival on the lawn with food, music, and activities. Sebastian created a detailed schedule and budget. Bastian recruited volunteers and handled promotion. The event was a massive success. Over 300 freshmen showed up. The only crisis was when someone's frisbee got stuck in a tree and Bastian climbed up to get it, giving Sebastian a minor heart attack. "What if you had fallen?" Sebastian hissed. "But I didn't, and now I'm a hero to that guy's frisbee." "That's not... You can't. We have insurance forms for this kind of thing." "Seb, buddy, you need to relax." "I relax plenty." "You relax on a schedule." "So?" Bastian just laughed and pulled Sebastian into a hug, which Sebastian tolerated for approximately 3 seconds before pushing him away, but he was smiling. Chapter 16. Meeting the Parents. Thanksgiving break brought a new challenge. The Worthingtons wanted to meet Bastian, and the Kowalskis wanted to meet Sebastian. "We could just not do this," Sebastian suggested. "We have to," Bastian replied.
"Besides, aren't you curious about my family?" "Mildly terrified is more accurate." "Don't be. My mom's going to love you. Fair warning, she cries a lot and will definitely try to feed you every hour." "That sounds intense." "Your family's the one with the estate, man. I'm terrified of using the wrong fork." They decided to spend Thanksgiving morning with the Kowalskis and evening with the Worthingtons, a compromise that satisfied neither family, but was at least fair. The Kowalski house was exactly what Sebastian had feared/hoped. Loud, chaotic, warm, and filled with the smell of approximately 7 different dishes cooking at once. "Sebastian!" Donna shrieked when she opened the door, immediately pulling him into a hug that knocked the breath from his lungs. "My other baby! Oh my God! You're exactly like Bastian, but different! Greg, come see!" "Ma, you're crushing him," Bastian laughed. I'm crying! I'm allowed to crush! But she released Sebastian, who stood there awkwardly, unsure how to respond to such unbridled emotion. Greg appeared, also crying, and also hugged Sebastian. We've watched you grow up in pictures, but this is... Sorry, give me a minute. He wiped his eyes. It's okay, Mr. Kowalski, Sebastian managed. Call me Greg, we're family. The Kowalski house was small compared to the Worthington estate, but it felt bigger somehow, filled with life. Bastian's aunt was there, and his cousins, and a neighbor who apparently just hung out with them regularly. Everyone talked over each other, passing dishes and telling stories and laughing. Sebastian sat at the dinner table, overwhelmed and confused, and somehow happy? You okay? Bastian whispered. This is very different from my family dinners, Sebastian whispered back. Better? Just different. But as the meal continued, Sebastian found himself relaxing. No one expected him to be perfect here. No one cared that he used the wrong fork. They were all using the same fork anyway.
They just wanted to know about him, not his accomplishments, but him. What's your favorite color? Bastian's young cousin asked. Blue? Navy blue? Cool, mine's purple. What do you like to do for fun? The aunt asked. I study? Everyone laughed, but not meanly. You and Bastian really are different, Donna said fondly. That's good, you balance each other out. That evening, the Worthington estate was exactly what Bastian had feared/hoped. Elegant, quiet, cold, and filled with the smell of nothing because they had staff who cooked in a completely different part of the house. Bastian, Constance greeted him at the door with air kisses. How colorful you are. Thanks, I think. Sebastian intervened. Mother, father, this is Bastian, my twin brother. Yes, we're aware, Sebastian II said, shaking Bastian's hand with the warmth of a business transaction. Welcome. Dinner was served in the formal dining room. There were 4 forks. Bastian panicked slightly, but watched Sebastian and copied him. The meal was delicious and completely silent. So, Bastian said finally, unable to bear the quiet, how is everyone doing? Constance looked at him like he'd spoken in another language. We're well, thank you. More silence. This turkey is great, Bastian tried again. It's from a sustainable farm upstate, Sebastian II replied. Cool, cool, very sustainable. Love sustainability. Sebastian kicked him under the table. Bastian kicked back. How are you finding Harvard? Constance asked, in the tone of someone fulfilling a social obligation. It's awesome. I mean, stressful, but awesome. Sebastian and I won the freshman representative election, which is cool. We're planning events and stuff. Yes, we heard. Constance looked at Sebastian. Co-representatives. That was unexpected. It was practical, Sebastian said. We work well together. Do you? Yes, Mother. We do. Constance and Sebastian II exchanged one of those parent looks that communicated entire conversations silently. After dinner, Bastian found himself in Sebastian's childhood room, which looked like a museum exhibit titled Overachiever, The Early Years. Dude, you have your debate team trophies alphabetized? Chronologically, actually. That's somehow worse. But Bastian was smiling. He picked up a photo from Sebastian's desk, a young Sebastian, maybe 8 years old, standing between his parents, all of them looking serious and formal. You never smiled as a kid? Not in photos. Mother said candid smiles looked unprofessional. Seb, you were 8. Worthingtons are never off duty. Bastian put the photo down and pulled out his phone, showing Sebastian a picture from his own childhood. Bastian covered in paint, grinning like a maniac, his parents laughing in the background. This is how families should be, Bastian said softly. Sebastian looked at the photo and felt something ache in his chest. Yes, he said quietly, it is. Chapter 17, The Spring Semester Plot. Spring semester brought new challenges and new opportunities. The co-representatives had been successful enough that they were now considering running for sophomore delegates, then junior council members, and eventually, though neither said it out loud yet, student council president. "It's a 4-year plan," Sebastian said, showing Bastian his color-coded spreadsheet. "Of course you have a spreadsheet." "Of course I have a spreadsheet." "Okay, but what if we just see how it goes?" See how it goes is not a strategy. It's worked pretty well so far. They were in the middle of this argument when they got an email from Veronica Chase, the current student council president, a senior with political ambitions and the personality of a corporate lawyer. "Dear Sebastian and Bastian, impressive work this year. I'm considering endorsing a team for next year's presidential race early. Interested in meeting?" "This is it," Sebastian breathed. "This is our shot." "Our shot at what? We're freshmen. The presidential election is 3 years away." "But the foundation starts now. Early endorsement from Veronica would give us credibility, a network, support." Okay, I'm in. But can we at least pretend to enjoy being freshmen first? We can enjoy being freshmen while positioning ourselves for future success. You're exhausting. You're exhausting. We're both exhausting. Agreed. They met with Veronica in her office, which was really just a corner of the student center, but she'd made it look presidential with strategic decoration and intimidation. "Gentlemen," she greeted them. "Or should I say gentlemen, since you're technically the same person genetically." "We prefer gentlemen, plural," Bastian said. "Otherwise, it gets confusing." Veronica smiled. "I've been watching your work. You've done something interesting. You've made student government accessible without making it a joke. That's rare." "Thank you," Sebastian said, trying not to sound too eager. "I'm considering my legacy," Veronica continued. "When I graduate, I want to know student government is in good hands. Your co-leadership model is innovative. It could be revolutionary on a larger scale." "You think we should run for student council president together?" Bastian asked. "Not just run, win, and then actually do good work. This school is full of resume builders who don't care about actual governance. You two seem to actually care." Sebastian and Bastian exchanged looks. "We do care," Sebastian said. "We also have no idea what we're doing half the time," Bastian added. "That's more honest than most politicians ever get. That's good." Veronica stood. "Think about it. If you decide to run, really run, not just go through the motions, I'll back you. My endorsement carries weight. But I won't back you if you're not serious." After leaving her office, they walked across Harvard Yard in silence. "This is crazy," Bastian said finally. "This is an opportunity," Sebastian countered. "We're freshmen. We're freshmen with momentum. Do you ever just stop planning and enjoy the moment?" Sebastian stopped walking. "No," he admitted. "I don't know how." Bastian looked at his twin, his brother, and saw something he hadn't noticed before. Behind all the planning and preparation and color-coded spreadsheets, Sebastian was scared. Scared of failing, scared of not living up to expectations, scared of being anything less than perfect. "Hey," Bastian said gently, "what if we did this for real? Not for your master plan, not for my entertainment, but because we actually want to make Harvard better." Sebastian met his eyes. "You think we can?" "I think we're already doing it, and I think if we keep working together, we could do even more." "That's surprisingly optimistic coming from you." "I'm full of surprises. Also, I care about this now. You made me care about this." "I did?" "Yeah, man. You're annoyingly passionate about governance. It's contagious." For the first time in his life, Sebastian felt like he wasn't alone in his ambitions. He had a partner. More than that, he had a brother. "Okay," Sebastian said, "let's do it. But we do it right." "Agreed," which means you handle strategy, and you handle keeping us human. Deal. They shook hands, and this time, it felt like the beginning of something real. Epilogue. 3 years later. The Student Council presidential debate was packed. Every seat filled, standing room only, cameras everywhere. This wasn't just any election. It was the twin election, the one everyone had been waiting for since that first chaotic semester when 2 identical freshmen had accidentally discovered each other and decided to team up. Sebastian and Bastian stood at their podium, 3 years older, 3 years wiser, but still fundamentally themselves. Sebastian in his perfect suit, Bastian in his blazer and funny tie combination that had become his signature. Their opponents were formidable, a duo from the business school with impressive credentials and a platform focused on maximizing student ROI. They were polished, prepared, and confident. But Sebastian and Bastian had something better. They had each other, and they had 3 years of proven results. Our opponents talk about ROI, Bastian said during his closing statement, but we're not products, we're people, and people need more than maximized returns. They need support, community, and representatives who actually give a damn. We've spent 3 years proving we can work together despite being complete opposites, Sebastian added. We've expanded mental health resources, improved campus life, and actually listened to what students need. Imagine what we can do with even more authority. The audience erupted. After the debate, they walked back to their dorm together. They'd kept their original room in Matthews Hall, turning it into an efficient chaos that somehow worked. Think we'll win? Bastian asked. Statistically, we have a 73% chance based on polling data, Sebastian replied. You're the worst. You're worse. We're both the worst. But together, we're the best, they finished simultaneously, then laughed. Election results came in 2 days later. Sebastian and Bastian won with 81% of the vote, the highest margin in Harvard Student Council history. We did it, Bastian said, staring at the results. We did it, Sebastian echoed. They'd started as strangers who happened to share DNA. They'd become brothers who happened to share a mission. And now, they were about to become the most unusual co-presidents Harvard had ever seen. What's the first thing we do? Bastian asked. Sebastian pulled out his tablet, showing a detailed first 100 days plan. Bastian pulled out his phone, showing a meme he'd made about their victory. They looked at each other and laughed. Together? Sebastian asked. Together, Bastian confirmed. And that's exactly how they led. Together. Different but unified. Planned chaos. Organized spontaneity. One person in 2 bodies, or 2 people sharing one goal. The Harvard twins had arrived, and Harvard would never be the same. The end.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.